Thank you very much
Cheers.
for sticking around for us. Cheers. So this is Inside the Minds of Marketers. We want to do things a little bit different. Cheers. Thank you. You see my Twitter handle name there. We want to open this up to questions because this is Inside the Mind of Marketers. Let's ask some questions. Let's find out what you guys want to know about them. Tweet me a question if you have one, or if you want to just raise your hand. We don't have microphones, but if you're willing to project or walk up to the front, we will find a way to get your question heard. And do that at any point. We're not going to set aside time at the end, but if at any point you want to ask a question, please go about it that way. So we have a great panel here today. And we have some very different brands. We have Beats by Dre, we have Taco Bell, and we have STX Entertainment. But let's talk a little bit about what they have in common. We were talking backstage that what binds these guys together really is entertainment. At the core of the marketing, entertainment is sort of the common thread here. So why don't we start out and talk a little bit about what that means for each of your brands individually.
Sure.
Marisa, why don't you start us off?
Oh, sure. Well, you thought I was the unlikely candidate of the group to think about our brand as entertainment, but I actually think it's what drew me to move my family from New York and to leave luxury beauty to go to California and fast food, because I didn't think of it as that. I thought of Taco Bell as this brand that's in culture, and in fact, a big part of how we define the vision is that it's a culture-centric lifestyle brand. So for me, while we're not truly an entertainment brand the way these two brands are, and the way we intersect in culture, and we have a long-standing connection to music and to sports and to gaming, and now increasingly looking to, spread that web into art and fashion, and of course food. Food is a gigantic part of culture. So the way we think about the brand itself, I mean, first and fundamentally we're a food company, but it's the expression of the brand and the way that we storytell it that I think does in many ways make us part of, if not entertainment, then certainly a part of culture.
Mm-hmm. Jason?
At Beats, I mean, we really sit at the kind of cross-section of art, music, sport, fashion, and also a little bit food as well now. And for us, I mean, it's in our business model. It's bringing the emotion of music to those experiences. So for us, it's day in, day out what we think about, and then you've got artists constantly in the building. You've got content was really how this brand came to life, and how telling stories, longer format, big stages, and really stepping into the world formerly really kind of run by Nike and Adidas and other spaces. We really kind of stepped into that stage and stepped in from the standpoint of how do we entertain, how do we storytell, and how do we really take people on a ride and really use the emotion of music rather than talk about the components of a headphone.
Mm-hmm. Amy, and tell people a little bit about what your company does. They may not be as familiar.
Sure. STX Entertainment is based here in Burbank. It's a 2-year-old global media company, and it was designed from businessman Bob Simons in the inception to be a talent-driven entertainment proposition so that stars could use any platform they wanted, from film, television, music, digital video, live events, VR, and that we could craft enterprises together with them and worldwide propositions. I work in STX Films division. The end of next year, we'll have released 16 movies. The most successful, Bad Moms, $180 million worldwide right now, and look forward to our next blockbuster, Luc Besson's Valerian, that will be the end of July.
Okay, very good. So let's talk a little bit about risk. One of the things that you hear a lot from agencies is that, they don't want to take a risk, the clients. We bring them ideas, they don't want to take a risk. Let's flip that a little bit. Are agencies bringing you risk opportunities that you want to be taking?
I'll go.
You want to go?
I think, Beats is really unique because we love risk, right? And that's the space we chose to play in. And our founders come from a space of pushing culture and driving culture and absolutely taking zero shit from anybody. And I think when you have that at your core, there's just a belief of wanting to constantly kind of push the envelope. So I think when you have your agency partners, they love that because then they kind of come into that space. But I think what what I think the agencies can do better of is they bring you, sometimes it's a risk for the sake of risk, and it's like, hang on, let's align this to the business, let's think about why we're doing this, and let's not just think about, this would be cool, you know? Especially when we meet with new agencies, it takes a while to kind of learn the rhythm of our business, and I'm sure that's relevant for everyone, because you come from just such a different lens that you're not thinking about, like, why is this driving their business? Or why is this risk a dumb risk based on that business model, just because you think it's a cool idea?
Right.
I have to say, I think that's the perfect answer, because I absolutely would defy anyone who says that this Taco Bell is not a risk-taking brand in terms of the first that we've done, the choices we make from a communication standpoint. But for sure, when you're sitting in this chair, you have a responsibility to try to refunnel it, a lot like what Jason said, through the lens of what is your brand tone and your brand voice. And it's amazing, how for every idea that is right in the bullseye, you get a lot of things that you think, well, wait a minute, have we not all been kind of singing off the same song sheet about who this brand is and what it's about? I agree, gratuitous risks or chasing the wrong goals of just making noise for noise sake, those aren't the things that you do, but the ones that just, for me, it's almost like this completely unquantitative litmus test of when I hear something and I just imagine the reaction in the marketplace is just gonna be this sort of like, only Taco Bell with a big smile. You know it, you feel it in your gut and you're like, okay, I'm willing to put our brand out there and go for it, even if it's a little unconventional. But if it doesn't feel right, that's our job. We have to really be the stewards of that. So risk has to be through a lens of advancing a business agenda, advancing your reputation, getting people talking about you, but getting people talking about you in the right ways.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it has to align with your purpose.
Yeah. For sure.
Right.
I think the best opportunities, though, come from, one, you have to create a safe place. You have to create a place where your agency feels comfortable coming in and being like, this may be wrong, right? This may be crazy, but what about? And it can't be punitive for bringing those types of ideas. But then it's that shared space of, I have to know my business and I have to know which ideas are bad ideas and which ones could actually really be transformational.
Right.
But I think it's incumbent upon everyone to set up an incentive program that rewards risk, right? And that from talent to individual to agency, how we compensate meaningful risk decisions and what that looks like needs to be built into the arrangements and the structures and the expectations.
And you're not seeing that right now.
I'm seeing it. I work with Horizon, amazing agency, and we have set up our talent and our team and our planning process and review process to measure all those things and to reward on all those levels I just described. But I think part of what hinders that process is that there's not an infrastructure in place that adequately rewards risk-taking, meaningful risk-taking.
Does that jibe with your experience as well?
I don't know. I guess that sounds a little oxymoronic to me because it sounds like trying to formalize something that's a little bit more dynamic. So I think for us, it's a little bit more cultural. But I've been in organizations where when you have to kind of pull the whole orientation of an organization in a different way, perhaps that's necessary. I guess I would hope, and some of my agency partners are in the room, maybe they could attest to it. I would hope that just the overall dynamic and culture that we've set up and the type of work that we do together is inherently inviting, interesting, provocative, cool, and occasionally risk-taking ideas. And the ultimate incentive is performance in the business, performance on metrics. So whether it's our PR agency, which is Edelman, and I mean, one of our favorite things we did last year when we were launching this big product called the Quesalupa was we actually did a redacted press release. So I take pleasure in sometimes these small little touches that are unexpected, like taking something as so pedestrian as a press release, but having it ladder to this idea that it was the, quote, worst kept secret, so even the press release was redacted, gave even the media a chance to have a smile of appreciation and wit. And I mean, when does a press release ever become the story itself? The press release became the story. So that for me, I mean, I don't know, is that a risk? Maybe doing something so unconventional with a very expected form of communication was a risk, but for me, that's a good example. Calculated risk, and not necessarily big. The reward was, it paid off dividends in the results. We had people talking. So I hope that's meaningful incentive to our partners, because we all succeed or frankly fail together in that our agency partners are part of our extended Taco Bell team.
Is risk easier to take when it's somebody in-house suggesting that you do it? And is that an incentive to do more things in-house?
Well, so just to come back around on the risk thing, I think if you set out to say, let's do something risky, you're in the wrong space. You should be setting out to find a great idea.
Right.
And you should be finding something that is going to be killer for what you're doing with the product, or a moment in culture, a moment in time, or what's happening in the world, whatever. Like, when you have a killer idea, I'll tell you if it's risky or not. Like, well, because we know like all the parameters of our business, and we know the issues, and we know, like, just like bring great ideas. That's what drives the business. And then if they're risky, so be it. You know, we make an assessment, we go.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So on the great ideas, I mean, this is ideas, innovations. Where, you know, are they coming from the agency space as much as they once did? Are the great innovations coming to you? You know, where are the innovations coming from right now, and is it where they used to come from?
I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
I think in our business, it's really interesting, and I love this part of our business because we are truly, truly collaborative. So our idea can come from the athlete, our idea can come from the artist, it can come from the agency partner, it can come internally. We don't care. And and this comes down from Jimmy Iovine. Like, he will show you a piece of media time and time again. He'll show it to everybody and get their feedback. He's just comfortable. And you know, we're the same way. Like, we will share an idea with an artist or an athlete before it's ready, before it's done. It's not like fear of what if they say no. It's really, truly, if you say no, then it's probably not good enough. So how do we make it better? How do we move it forward? So everyone is in the process. And you know, we do still try to brief the agency first and kind of get to that big idea moment, and then push through all of our channels and make it better, make it better, make it better, make it better. But it comes from everywhere now. It really comes from everywhere.
We have a combination. So we have some in-house agency-like teams, and we absolutely have, you know, a world-class roster of agency partners. And I do think it's the combination. I mean, one of the, you know, going back to my first comment about being a brand and culture, is sometimes it's just about really understanding how to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on and just blow a little wind on it. So when we see that there are girls taking their senior class photos in a reverent way in front of a Taco Bell, or that there's a thing of proposing to your prom date by saying taco, get it, about prom, we just amplify that. So where did that good idea come from? Well, in that case, frankly, the good idea was just there for the plucking. But then other times, we are really lucky to have great agency partners. Deutsch LA is our creative agency, our media partners, our Spark and Digitas who are here. I mean, really, like, the hardest challenge, I think, when I took over as CMO is really, and I am curious how the agency folks feel about this, really asking them to sit at the table together and, you know, in a way, check the personal agenda at the door in the interest of serving the greater collective idea of how we bring truly, I mean, this is so catchphrase, but it's real. How do you bring a truly integrated, multi-layered big idea into the marketplace? And I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard with some of our campaigns. So the credit really is distributed. And that's a really exciting thing, maybe in a slightly different way than you said, but same outcome.
But that's as important is when there's an idea, everybody's got to embrace it.
Yeah.
There's no not created here syndrome, none of that stuff, because it never works. Like, if you really, truly embrace it, you're gonna make it better, and you're gonna get credit for it. Like, it's not a jump ball. It's like, we're all pushing this thing forward.
So we flirted with the in-house thing a little bit, but I do want to, I'm going to pester you on this. I want you all to tell me something that you do in-house now that you didn't used to do in-house, and why.
Go, Amy.
Social insights and data and analytics. It continues to be growing and growing because we can't afford the time lapse. We need the insights in real time. For movie marketing, when you're making an impression immediately in typically a 4-week window, there's not that much time you have. So outsourcing, social listening, and insights we're bringing, fully integrated into our media teams, and we're staffing up in-house every day around those areas.
Okay.
Jason?
We're an 8-year-old startup, so we didn't have any of the old traditions as the company was built. So I think we've always had this really hybrid effect. I mean, our internal creative engine has gotten bigger over the years, but I guess, we have desks that our agencies sit at like permanently. So it really is this in-house, out-of-house kind of blurred line. And we've always kind of been around that model of keep everybody close, and then when the right door kind of pops and we know which way we got to go based on what happens in culture, if it's digital, if it's whatever. So I don't really have an answer to that question. We've kind of always been in this hybrid model.
Okay.
I'll give you 3 good examples. Social, we've always had in-house. Young, super talented team, and among them are, their jobs are content creators. They do Snapchat the way I think no brand can do Snapchat. It's amazing. Does that mean they're alone? No, absolutely not. They work in concert with our creative agency on larger ideas that we'll sometimes ask for help with. Of course, paid social. So even that's collaborative. So that's example 1. Example 2, which we actually brought in-house, unlike your question was, you used to have it, is we brought all of our restaurant marketing in-house into an internal design studio. So all the POP, in-store merchandising, menu board design, all that stuff is now in an in-house studio, and they are amazing. It's really exciting that we've attracted such great talent. They're working on things like packaging, artwork in the restaurants, and they just have a finger on the pulse in a different way, and I think we've just elevated the look and feel of that so much. That's an example of a true change. And then third is, and this was a structure I inherited and sort of helped amplify, is we have kind of what I would call classic brand or product marketing team. We also have what we call our brand experience team, and they're partners. So that brand experience team is staffed with a lot of ex-agency people, so they understand what it is to, with the complexity of advertising that we produce, they understand what it is to, be on a pre-pro and to really nurture something from idea inception all the way through to execution. And so they work basically as the client partner to our creative agency or agencies, depending on bringing this all to life. And given how much we do, that model really works for us.
Is there any hope that,
can I ask
sorry,
a
go
question?
ahead.
I'm curious to both of you just about how, and this is very kind of in the weeds, but how have you made your arguments in terms of headcount and resource and making that shift? Because if something comes in, something's got to go, right? If you're at a zero
Correct.
game.
For us at STX, one of the main benefits I have is that because we're trying to build enterprises across all of the business units, just not films, I can take all of the learnings and investment and make a use case for other divisions. And show efficiencies and business opportunity in the other groups. So that's been able for us to offset it because there's a greater good happening across music, television, short form, that kind of thing that we're gaining each time by having that there. And again, we don't have the legacy infrastructure either, being 2 years old and private. So we're building as we see business opportunity, and that's how I've been able to do it.
Right. Okay, very good.
Well, Taco Bell's 55, so we're kind of like a kid.
So we have a lot of questions here, and I did ask for them, so I feel bad if we didn't get to them. Let's see. Lou Pascalis has a question. I think we're going to have to ask this one. Has ROI measurement kept pace with the revolution redefining marketing? Is personalization merely about transactional efficiency?
Say it one more time.
No.
Has ROI measurement, let's just stick with the first one. Has ROI measurement kept pace with the revolution redefining marketing?
You want me to go? I'll go.
Jump in, I'll follow.
No, not really. And I'll tell you, being in a retail business where I get a report card every single day, which hits my inbox just when I'm waking up, and I had to make a deal with my husband that I would not crack my eyes open and go, yes, or looking at my daily sales numbers. So, I mean, talk about ROI. I'm living my daily sales every day. But in terms of this question is really the ROI on the marketing and attribution. And no, honestly, we've played with a lot of models. I've come from a background with e-commerce and direct response where you feel like it's super accountable every dollar you spend. But when you're looking in more general investments, it's much, much trickier. So right now for us, it's a patchwork. It's a patchwork of things. It's a patchwork of brand health metrics. It's our sales. It's trying to look through specific partners at what's working and pushing harder and harder. But, you know, and I feel like, thankfully, I have a fabulous data person on my team who's helping sew that patchwork into a little bit more of a quilt of more sophisticated data science. It includes data from our media, but includes from receipts, includes from credit cards. But gosh, I'd love to be further along than we are on that and to really feel like, you know, it's easier to assess how things are working.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you, correct me if I'm wrong, I hear you talking about complexity. It
Yeah.
sounds like that is at the core of what you're saying, the patchwork.
Of course.
Where would you guys rank complexity on your daily challenges in doing your job?
High.
Too high.
Very high. I think it's funny. I mean, we're at the end of the day, we're a pretty simple business. We sell headphones and speakers, but we execute across so many platforms and also so many verticals of art, art, music, sport, fashion. So the business gets, and then you go global, right? The business gets really complicated very fast.
Mm-hmm. And that's an opportunity, no? I mean, for agencies to help guide you through that complexity. Is that a role that they're fulfilling adequately? Could they be doing more there? You're shaking your head.
They could be more diverse.
They could be more diverse.
I think when you start to look at those verticals and you start to look at what's moving culture and you see agencies not reflecting that, then you don't get some of the points of view that you wish you were getting, and you have to get those in-house, or you have to get them from small little factioned parts of your kind of ecosystem. And I'm not gonna go too heavy on the diversity thing, but I think it's an absolute issue. And I think when you've got one sort of point of view, then you know that's a risk. That's a risk I don't want. You know, and I love our partners, and I'm not pointing at my specific partners, but I think when you look at the industry overall, I think what's happening outside of agencies is way more interesting, and what's happening with these tiny little factions of, you know, street culture kids and artists, and like that's what's really kind of moving, you know, and I just wish there was more of that in agencies.
Wow, okay. That actually is a nice segue into this question. Do agencies overestimate how much clients track agency landscape, different players and their positioning? Do you have time to keep tabs on these things?
In terms of like accountability?
Well, I mean, agencies are obsessed with who's up, who's down, who's doing well, who's been winning. Who, you know, are you paying attention to that, or is that just so much noise that doesn't really concern you on a day-to-day basis?
I'm not.
I'm happy, so I'm not.
I really like my
and you've been in agencies. I mean, this is not somebody who's been on the client side forever.
Yeah, it's funny. I spent 16 years at agencies, and the degree to which I don't look at that stuff is actually shocking to me personally, because I was really kind of aware of that. I think now you have a business to run, you know, and I think it's important to be smart about who's moving where and why, what businesses are moving where and why, especially in your category. But I really think, you know, we worked really hard to find the partners that we really like. And I think across the board, we're really happy. So I'm not interested in kind of what's moving and why and all that. I'm interested in like how are these guys serving our business, how are we working together, how are we building, how are we collaborating, how are we making this relationship stronger and tighter and better.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, look, agencies are fundamentally about the people. And so it's really about that exercise of making sure that you have the right people within those agencies, assuming the overarching agency choice feels right. And so I think the first thing that starts to erode is perhaps you don't have, you know, something's shifted and maybe you don't have the right people on your business. And conversely, I would say having some ambient understanding what's happening in the industry is important, because it's part of where we all need to look for inspiration. We were talking about where do ideas come from, but no, I think beyond that, I think I would share my colleague's point of view that I'm not looking to be unduly fickle. These are relationships that require time and partnership and trust, and frankly, the cost of business of making a change in a partnership is pretty profound. So I would have to be at a point of real dissatisfaction in a partnership to trade off the cost of business of making a shift and the risk, we were talking about risk of bringing a new partner on and onboarding them to the complexity of this business. So I do believe you can have a long-standing relationship, but it then is incumbent on the partners to always act like, you know, it's new and they're hungry and they're earning it. That I think is a little bit of the implicit pact and the trust that exists. Is the second we get lazy or they get lazy, something's broken, and it's really like people too, right? You got to work at a relationship to keep it fresh and exciting, and I think that is an expectation I would have of all of our partners.
Okay, very good. Somehow we have 1 minute left. I don't know how that happened. I'm going to put you all on the spot right now. We're going to do a quick lightning round. Everyone tell me, where are you spending more money this coming year and where are you spending less money? Do you want to start, Amy?
More in programmatic. More in programmatic. Okay. Less, let me get back to you.
Less on TV. That's kind of an easy answer. Much more in content proliferation.
I feel a little traitorous to the fact that I was very early to digital, and the last decade of my career was kind of evangelizing digital, but I'm going to be straight out and honest because I think it's real. The answer to the question for this year, 2017, is we are spending more on TV than we were last year and less in digital.
More on TV?
That's right. Why? Because we are a mass business and with a huge cult aspect, right? I love that paradox that we're this mass cult brand. And the reality is, until we figure out how to use digital a little bit more effectively to really get that business result, and I'm not talking all parts of digital, and I feel like this is a controversial answer, but you asked for truth, so I'm giving you truth. Right, TV is important to us. TV still works for us. Radio actually works for us, believe it or not. So I just made a friend.
I think you just made a lot of friends, actually.
Now, but like I do love and believe in digital, but I think, you know, even as someone I would consider myself, you know, maybe more savvy than some CMOs that grew up in a totally traditional environment. I've spent a lot of time in digital. You know what? We went down some garden paths with it last year, and some of it's on us. Some of it is about using data to better understand really like the targeting opportunities, not demos, but like how do we really reach who we want to reach in digital, and how do we make sure that what we're thinking we're doing in digital aligns to what we're doing? Oh, this was not a speed round answer. I'm so sorry. Okay,
no,
that's
no,
it.
I think this
The end. Sorry.
All right.
Anyway, more TV, less digital, but not forever, probably. The end.
We still need a less, don't we?
All right, so TV is the future. You heard it here first.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
She didn't give a less.
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
Tell us, Amy. Where's your less?
The wine is making me
I'm
verbose.
going to lose friends here. Probably less in radio for us.
Less in radio.
Yeah.
Oh, someone was so excited over
I
here a
know.
moment ago. You just
know.
ruined their night.
Got you. I got you.
Okay, very good. All right, well, thank you very much, and thanks everybody for your questions. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of them. The panel, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for holding me accountable.